Hello. I wanted to say a few words today about players, patterns, and if you have had any experience with players at all, you may have seen some patterns forming over time which are quite similar in nature to other players. And I wanted to highlight today a few of those patterns that often occur when we're dealing with people who are trying to play us, if you will, in some form or another. And so I want to highlight just a few of those patterns today so that we can stand back and be able to look at these issues in an objective way when we suspect we may be being played by someone. And this needn't be in a romantic situation, it can be in any situation at all. And so, my first pattern, if you like, that is really quite prominent with people who want to play us is that they often like or need to manipulate and control us. And I've mentioned this issue in a lot of the videos that the outcome of a player's patterns overall, the objective, if you like, is to control and manipulate and to be able to control people in a way that is in line with their agenda. And the problem that a lot of people encounter is that when they're involved in a situation where they are unaware of what is happening, they could find that they are being controlled and manipulated out of their awareness. And so they could fall in line with the agenda without being aware of what is going on, which is what playing is all about as far as the player is concerned. It's getting people to dance in line with their tune. The next pattern that we may see, particularly in a sexual player, but it can be in players in general, is that they have a number of options that they've built up over the years, which means that there are a number of people available, if you will, for them at the drop of a hat. And so they've built up this store of people and attention that they can call upon at any moment. And those people often are not aware of what is happening either. So many of us are played and kept waiting at bay without us realizing that the person is just keeping us as an option. So that's another pattern that is quite common with players. And of course with sexual players, it means that they've got a store of people to call upon, maybe just by sending a text, and the person will be responding quite quickly. Because as I will highlight in my next point, a lot of players like to keep people hungry and waiting for attention in the background. And so I've got here that keeping people hungry is a way of controlling them, because they are controlling their emotions and their needs by withholding what the other person wants. And I have heard players say to the person, I can't give you what you want, which is often a cue for people to actually up their game and to try and convince the player that they can give them what they want by giving them more attention, which is often the purpose, because a lot of the manipulation that we see and experience is actually to do with getting the other person to give them more attention, which is why we get withholding in text messages or emails or phone calls and things. And all this sounds very negative, but the thing is, it's equipping us so that we do not waste our time and energy on situations that could just be draining us and wasting our time and potentially stopping our personal development growth because our energy is being poured elsewhere rather than into our life and our growth. Another tip I've got here as far as a pattern with players is that they will often present a very perfect persona, and so they're very charming often. And when you do manage to get hold of them, which is quite difficult a lot of the time, the persona is a very kind, generous, charming, everything that you should want in a person. And yet it's taken you a very long time to actually get them to respond. And we don't often look at those patterns and put two and two together because we're so overwhelmed with this lovely stuff that is now coming to us from someone who could have been ignoring us. So when we look at patterns and we put the situation and the behaviours together and look at the pattern that it forms by putting all the behaviours together, we may see that the patterns complement one another by supporting one another. And so the withholding, for instance, supports the need to control. So that's quite a good tip there to bear in mind if we're looking at patterns overall. And of course, in order to look at patterns forming, we need to have time. And we also need to take care of ourselves in the process. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, but it's well worth doing as a tool to have in our safe relationship training toolbox. Another pattern that we may see with players is that they like to keep people in play over long periods of time because it maintains that person as an option. And they know that that person, the longer that that person is invested in them, then the more likely they are going to be to stay in the game. And they are more likely over time to be able to be played, because the longer we invest in something, the less likely we are going to want to withdraw because our investment has become greater over time. So keeping people in play with a little bit of attention here and there is quite a major pattern with players. But if they've got a lot of options out there, sometimes they know that they can afford to let one go and let them drop off the radar, if you will. Another pattern you will see in relationships with players who quite often are quite narcissistic is that there is little progression in the relationship. No matter what type of relationship it is, you see little progression. You might have little tidbits here and there to keep you on the hook, but as far as they are concerned and their behaviour is concerned, you may see that there is very little progression from that initial high. You may find that through conditioning that you are actually doing all or most of the work, and yet the relationship, in whatever form it is still not progressing, because the player is maintaining things at a level that they want. And so they're happy with the game the way it is. But we may be held at bay, hungry for attention, and still seeing no progression in a relationship, which may have been occurring over years. And so you might like to pop over there and have a look at my video, Nowheresville Relationships, because that highlights this point a little bit deeper, so that we become aware of when our time and our energy is being drained over very long periods of time, and yet we're getting very little in return. And so, as far as the player's control and manipulations are concerned, mostly these are to do with maintaining the situation at a level that they want and that they are able to go to, and nothing more. And being aware, being very conscious aware when we're dealing with people who want to play us, means that we are then able to put our relationship antennae up and take the action appropriate in order to take care of ourselves, but also to free up that energy and that time that we may need to pour into our own life and our own growth. So I hope that's helpful, and as always, stay safe and very happy. Bye-bye.